How do you bring back Legacy of Kain after all this time and this is what you give me?
What did you do to my brother?
Only what you knew I would do. I have delivered you the vengeance you were too weak to take yourself.
I'll show you weakness!
Like, seriously, I'm sitting here wondering who this is even for. And this isn't some random series that people forgot about that it's okay to just come back and do what you want with. People have been asking for this to come back for years, decades. It never even really went away. It just kind of sat there waiting to be brought back. And I already made a whole video about that, how it kept getting brought up, how fans never let it die, how it always felt like it deserved another shot. And you can go check that video out because it basically sums up how Legacy of Kain has stayed alive this whole entire time and how the resurgence came about. So when this game, this new one, finally got announced, I was obviously excited, as any other Legacy of Kain fan was. But now that it's actually here, now that we can actually see what's been made, now that we can actually play it, this honestly doesn't feel right. And I'm not talking about the small changes they made or the big changes they made or how things are just a bit different. The very core of this team now just feels off to me at this point, and I'm talking about BitBot. Like, they brought the series back, but they didn't really understand what made it work in the first place. This isn't just another series with a rabid fan base that you can come through and milk. Legacy of Kain has always been in its own lane. The tone, the writing, the way it tells its story, how it even plays. It never really lined up with anything else that was coming out at that time, before or after. And that's the whole reason people cared about it in the first place. This game and this series was not just nostalgia or people wanting something old to come back. This is a very specific kind of franchise with a very specific type of fan base. So when you bring back a franchise like this, it has to be done with care and in a way that respects the original source material that made it popular in the first place. I've seen all the reactions to this. There's been a lot of hate around it. Some of it I get, some of it feels a bit over the top and forced. But at the same time, I also get why people are reacting like this, because this isn't just some random game showing up out of nowhere. This is something people have been waiting on for decades. I think the real problem is people are mixing two different conversations together and treating them like they're the same thing when they're not. Because if you just take this game on its own and you strip away the Legacy of Kain name off of it, it's kind of fine. It's a decent game. It's very mediocre, but it's not bad. There's nothing spectacular about it, but there's nothing super broken. The gameplay works. The gameplay loop is fine. It does what it's supposed to. If you like those older Castlevania titles, it's kind of reminiscent of something like that. And I'll be honest, I obviously like this kind of stuff. I love pixel art. My name is Patty Pixel. I love Metroidvanias. I like side scrollers. So I'm not coming from this from a place where I just don't enjoy this type of game. That's not where the anger's from. I'm not like, oh no, they took Soul Reaver and made it a side scroller, or they took Legacy of Kain and turned it into something it's not. That's not even what my issue is here. Like I said, if you're into games like Castlevania, there's things here you can enjoy. You can sit down, you can play it, you can have a decent time with it. It's not some disaster where everything falls apart the second you pick it up and you're like, oh my God, what is this? Like I said, it's not great, but it's not horrible. And that's where some of the overreactions come from, because people are acting like it's completely terrible when it isn't. And I think on the gameplay alone, sure, but if they would have had a good story and nailed that, I don't think we'd all be having the same sentiment we're having right now. But like I said, at the same time, if you go too far with one way, that's okay, the game's fine, it's decent, but that's missing the point, because that's not what this was supposed to be. This isn't some new IP trying to figure itself out. This isn't some like project experimenting with a new style. This is Legacy of Kain. And the second you put that name on it, everything changes, all expectations changes, the standard for what it has to be changes. Because now it's not just whether the game is good enough on its own as a game, it's about whether it actually belongs in the series. And this game absolutely does not belong in the series. Like I said, I really like this kind of stuff. I like pixel art. I love Metroidvanias. I love side scrollers. That's what I like to play. Those are my bread and butter of games. So something like this should have been something I was into right away without even thinking about it. You add Legacy of Kain on top of that, my favorite franchise of all time. This should have been a game made like for me, especially for me, something that I couldn't even dream of ever happening, but finally did. And now I'm sitting here and I'm playing it and I finished it and it's not clicking the way it should, but not because, oh, the gameplay isn't good or the story's a little off. It's because this doesn't even feel like it matches the series. It doesn't even feel like it matches the other games. It doesn't even feel like it belongs, and I don't understand how this even ever got pushed forward beyond its production. And that's the part that's bothering me even more, because if I'm the exact type of player that this should have landed for, I love this kind of style. I love this franchise. So if I'm sitting here feeling like things ain't right, then clearly something's not lining up here. This should have literally been an easy win for them, and it clearly wasn't. Lore and story. That's it. That's the whole backbone of the Legacy of Kain series. Nobody plays these games for the gameplay. The gameplay is good, but it's there to service the incredible story and the characters and the tones and the atmosphere and everything else around it. This really isn't a simple series. The timeline is beautiful and complicated, and it's a giant mess in all the best ways. Characters cross over on each other, events loop back on themselves, things connect in ways that you don't even fully catch the first time you play when you play the series for the first time. That's the part why people love, and that's the reason people fall in love with it. It's deep, it's layered, it's so much its own thing and nothing like anything else. So when you approach something like this, you don't get to just kind of treat it casually the way they did. You don't get to just pick and choose what you want to do based on your own personal interests or agendas within the franchise. And I'm not even against new ideas. I want new ideas. If you want to add a new character even, that's fine. But do it properly. Make them fit into what's already there. Make it feel like they actually belong in that world. Because that's not what this feels like. This feels like they're forcing things in. This feels like they're changing things that didn't need to be touched just because it serviced their greater goal. Moving things around just to make it work for their version of the game instead of respecting what's already there. When I started seeing the major retcons and you start seeing like established moments in the lore of the games being altered and changed, you start seeing parts of the story that were already defined getting bent into something completely different. I'll be honest with the way that makes me feel, and that's how fucking dare you, and who the fuck do you think you are? And I'm sorry to have to swear like that, but that's seriously, that's where my mind goes when I'm done playing this.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
I think about the team that made it, and that's what I start to think. This is the kind of series where the lore actually matters. People remember this stuff for decades now. It's why the games are still popular. People care about how all the stuff connects. That's the entire reason this franchise still gets talked about. You're not building from nothing. You have a giant foundation of lore and established events that you're stepping into. And that foundation is the whole point. You can expand on the world all you want. Nobody has a problem with that. Add to it, explore it, take things that are already within it and go deeper. That's what people wanted. But you don't rewrite what already made it work in the first place. You don't change fundamental things about a character just because you want them to suit your other character. That's not your place to do. Your name is not Amy Hennig. You don't get to come in here and just start changing core parts of the lore. Things that made the characters who they are. Raziel acting like a buffoon in these books and in the game. I don't like it. You take what's there and you build on it, sure. You add to it in a non-intrusive, meaningful way, okay? But you don't come in and start acting like you know better than the people who have been holding on to this franchise for years. You guys just should have gone and asked ask Reyna Audrin, what should we do next? And let them figure out what to do with the story, or do a poll with the I don't know what you guys should have done, but this is not it. I do know what you should have done. Any Legacy of Kain fan could take 10 things right now and name them that would have all been better than this and would have all been better ways to go about in the story. The whole her being forced to being tied to Raziel just was absolute nonsense. And the way the new dialogue was written for Kain and Raziel was honestly equally as stupid, and it didn't come across or feel like Legacy of Kain to me in any way. And that's where the bigger problem starts to poke its head out for me. People already had issues with that story. Fans were very vocal about it when they did this story in the book, which was long time before the game was done. So that wasn't like a quiet thing either, that like, oh, you guys didn't like the story. No, that Kickstarter came, it drew $1 million, and then people were all like, what the hell did you use our money for? This book sucks. So maybe at that point, pulling things back and rethinking it would have been a smarter idea. Instead, everything got doubled down and pushed this story forward anyways. And I don't care if it's different teams or different writers, or the game was already in production, or they didn't have a choice. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't care. Crystal Dynamics should have realized what was happening and just not allowed it. And that's kind of what gets me too, because at this point, it stops feeling like a mistake and starts feeling like they kind of just don't care what the fans actually think. And with this franchise, I think they're kind of just trying to milk it at this point. This franchise exists because of the fans. And that's any franchise, I get it. But the reason it still exists is because of the fans. This series stayed alive because people refused to let it die. People like myself who spent the last 10 years, 20 years talking about it in Discords and on forums and with their friends and pushing new people to play the series. We are what has kept Legacy of Kain alive. And there's only one reason that series is even here right now, and that's us. So when you take something like everybody's opinion and just say, fuck it, we don't care, we're going to push this forward anyways, you ignoring the exact thing that kept the franchise alive in the first place. So at what point are you actually trying to do something good for the franchise, or at what point are you just trying to do something for yourself? Because now at this point, it doesn't feel genuine anymore. I went from being excited about BitBot bringing this back to sitting here thinking like, what am I actually doing? What am I even going to do with my physical copy of this stuff when it arrives? I don't even want it anymore. I want it because it's cool. Some of the artwork's cool. I'm probably going to just rip it apart and turn it into some kind of artwork. I don't know. But like, is this company actually trying to build something real that the fans want? Or are you just trying to kind of milk and get away with what you think you can get away with because you know anybody that loves Legacy of Kain is starving for anything to do with Legacy of Kain? Because if this is the direction that you're going to keep going, this is exactly how you kill the franchise again, if you haven't already just now. And I keep seeing this other thing come up everywhere, which is equally as stupid, is people saying, just make Dark Prophecy again. That's all they had to do. Just make Dark Prophecy. If you look at any of the comments in any Legacy of Kain video of recent, that's all it is that they should have just made Dark Prophecy. And I get it. I really do. If you've been around this series for as long as the series has been around, then that's the dream for all of us. You want that continuation. You want to see where it was all going, but that's not realistic. You don't bring back a dead franchise by dropping a sequel that nobody understands outside of the franchise. That only works if the audience is still there, and the audience is not there. This series has been gone for too long. Most people don't even know what Legacy of Kain is anymore, let alone where the story left off. You have a very big niche fan base, but that's it. It's us. It's however many million of us maybe that's there, and that's it. And if you want the series to be successful and really be something they can push forward, it has to appeal to a new audience as well. So if you don't even have the same people behind it, like Amy Hennig, then you don't want to take that original vision and keep building upon it and building upon it. You can't just pick it back up like nothing's changed 20 years later and be like, okay, we're bringing the series back and we're starting on game 6. That's not how you reintroduce something. You need something that gives players a way in without expecting them to like already know everything, which this game also that just came out didn't do either. Anybody jumping into that for the first time would have been like, who the hell are these people and what's going on? Again, I don't even know who they made that for because it wasn't for the fans and it wasn't for newcomers of the series. So who is Ascendance even for? You can't just take a new fan base and drop them into the middle of something as dense as Legacy of Kain and expect them to understand. So the problem isn't that they didn't make Dark Prophecy. The problem is just the way they chose to go instead. If you really wanted to do this right, you start from the beginning. You remake Blood Omen as a proper third-person action-adventure game, and then you build forward from there. You modernize the gameplay, you make it feel good to play today, you make it appeal to modern audiences. Kain is a character that could easily jump in right now in the video game zeitgeist and be incredibly popular, and if there was good marketing behind him, he could be a big character. I could see people wanting to do the cosplay and all the rest of it. Kain could be something really big if they took the marketing and were smart about it, and they did Blood Omen 1 again from the very beginning. There's an easy way to just reboot the franchise like that. New players that way have a starting point, and older fans get something that we've been wanting for a long time too that we'll actually respect. And I think that's the cleanest way to do it. Or fine, if you don't want to go that route, then fine, do something new, but don't just try to force something into a timeline and start in a weird, messy way and change things that are already established. That's not how you do this. You set it somewhere in a different time period even. Nosgoth is such a large, rich world full of established lore that could easily be used to tell dozens of different stories without having to change a thing. Or you could even use the same characters that have already been there, but expand upon it properly, instead of stepping on everything that already existed. They had kind of a cool core idea with Ascendants playing as like the Seraph and Raziel. That stuff was super cool, at least to me. but all the shoehorned BS that they put in between ruined it. So maybe do something like that. Give people a way in without rewriting what came before, in a way that new players aren't going to have to go and play 5 old 20-year-old games to understand what's going on. Because at the end of the day, this has to be accessible for new players of the series if we want the series to ever truly move forward. You can't expect players to jump into something new and as dense as Legacy of Kain with no context, and you can't also expect old fans to be okay with you just making giant changes and doing whatever you want and treating it like that's okay. You have to build this up properly. Nobody wanted this to be good as much as I did. Well, I'm sure a lot of us did, but I'm saying me, as much as anyone, wanted this project to be good. And that's the whole thing. Like I said, too, this should have worked. It really should have worked. This was like a easy win. You got the go ahead to make something Legacy of Kain. How hard is it to just make something faithful to Legacy of Kain? We love Legacy of Kain. We'll take anything you give us that's Legacy of Kain, but just at least make it Legacy of Kain. Don't make it your weird fan fiction bullshit. Bringing back Legacy of Kain isn't the issue. It's what they did with it. The dialogue doesn't feel like Legacy of Kain. Not in the book, not in the game. It doesn't have like the weight and the same style and the same... I don't even know what the word would be, but it's just not the same. And that, me not knowing what the word would be, is exactly how I know a lot of other people feel too. You can't define Legacy of Kain. It's such a special, unique, one-off thing that you either build upon what's already there and use what's already there, or you do your own thing within it, but you don't go changing what's there. And you can do all the shoehorning you want, but like I said, trying to fit all this stuff into places it doesn't naturally belong is where they went wrong. And the main character, I mean, she's fine on the surface. She looks kind of cool, but there's not much there. And there's nothing that really pulls you into wanting to see where her story goes either. The only part that actually stood out to me was the old Hilden dude that she's working for. He seemed interesting. His dialogue was kind of interesting. And I didn't have any predisposition to how he should be, so I was able to enjoy him as a new character. So that's something you could build upon. I'd love to see the Hilden stuff get built upon. The best way I can just describe all of this is this just feels like something that just managed to take the Legacy of Kain name and do what they want with it. You know, like when there's like popular horror movies and then some other director or company gets like the rights to the name and they make another one and it's got nothing to do really like the first one. It's just like almost feels like a cheap knockoff, but it's the actual sequel. That's what this feels like. It feels like somebody just got the rights to the name and we're like, okay, well, here's some cool characters that we know people will buy if we put them on the box and in the trailer. So let's just do that. And I know the people that worked on this probably care. You know, we already know that, as far as I know, there's future plans already being talked about. And if the rumors are true, then Crystal Dynamics has some idea of what they want to do next already with this too. So I'm still hopeful. I'm still optimistic. And between the remasters we've already got and the ones that I'm still hopeful are on the way, there's still a lot to look forward to. I think Blood Omen 2 and Blood Omen 1 will at least get remasters. So I hope the powers that be regroup and do what's best for the franchise moving forward. And again, no disrespect to the people who worked on the book and on the game. I'm sure you thought you were doing something cool and right. But as a lifelong fan of the franchise who has liked this franchise since they've been a little kid and is now a fully grown 36-year-old man, I can tell you that you do not understand the very core of what made this franchise popular in the first place. And I'm sorry to say, you are not the right people to be working on this franchise. And I hope to see BitBot's involvement in this franchise take a back seat and let someone who understands Legacy of Kain do whatever comes next. And I know that they weren't the ones that are fully responsible for all the book stuff and all the game stuff too. And there's other companies that worked on the game, but they're not the ones who wrote the lore of the game. And that's the main problem with the game. I would have even been fine with you guys using this as a stepping off point. And like, here, we just made a little side scroller just to kind of get some money in the bank and show the bigger companies that there's interest in this. And so we can do something bigger. But that's not what this is. This feels like you guys literally just wanted to do your own weird fan fiction and decided to milk a lifelong fan base of a franchise that has been waiting and hungry for something to come around for so long that you thought you could just do whatever you want and people would be okay with it and eat it right up. So that's what it feels like to me. And I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that's kind of what it is. So Soul Reaver 1 and Blood Omen 1 both would have worked very well reimagined as a Metroidvania. All those areas and puzzles remade to fit like a proper 2D pixelated Metroidvania setting could easily still be done and work very well. You could just take the already remastered dialogue that's already there and do that. But instead, you give us this half-assed side scroller with giant story changes that nobody asked for, with characters that nobody asked for. So, great job. I remain optimistic for the future, though, as always. My fellow fans and friends also choose to do the same, I hope, of this franchise, because let's not just send Legacy of Kain to the grave for another decade because of one stupid slip-up. Let's let them use this as a lesson learned to be hopeful for what comes next, because they will see now that at least there is a lot of interest and a lot of passion behind the franchise, and that maybe this wasn't just the step that they needed to take and that it was a misstep, and they'll do something else moving forward. They should really just go and listen to Reina or someone else and just ask them what they think fans should do next, because they're so interconnected with the series and understanding of what made the series special in the first place that I think they'd be able to really advise them on what comes next. And if they did have any input on this, then I apologize, but like I said, this just isn't what we needed at all. From one Legacy of Kain fan to another, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. I hope the next time I make a video about my favorite franchise of all time, Legacy of Kain, we can leave it off on a more positive note. I am very hopeful for things to come. I think they see that the money is here, and that hopefully that they see that the fan base will react negatively if they don't do what we want. So maybe now they're going to use, you know, I don't know, whatever resources they got left or whatever's coming in the future to just give us proper final remasters of the games we don't have. So we need a Blood Omen 2 remaster. We need a Blood Omen 1 remaster. And then you can go ahead and take all the money you've made from all these remasters and put them towards a Blood Omen 1 remake, which I've heard from some little birdies is kind of what the company has been thinking about. But there's so many fans that are so hopeful with so much little rumors that always get spread around that you never know what's coming. So I'm hopeful for the future. This isn't the last time I'm going to talk about this. And if you aren't a Legacy of Kain fan, then you wouldn't have made it to the end of this video. So I don't have to apologize for talking about Legacy of Kain for so long. Anyways, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to me for this long. I just really care about this franchise a lot, and I know a lot of other people do too. And I don't like to be negative about it. I really didn't even want to make this video. That's why I'm not going like super scripted or like making sure, oh, I'm going to say the right thing. Because honestly, I just want to be honest about it. This is how I feel. And I don't like to be negative about my favorite franchise of all time. But we got to be honest, because otherwise they're just going to give us more of this. And if this is more of what we're going to get, then just fucking let it be dead. Anyways, thank you guys. That's it for me. I'm out.
What happened was the Elder God had a colostomy. It was not under control. I said no more yogurt, Elder God.